Hi again, this is Amethyst Treleaven. This is Psychic Ogham reading number 806 and it's for my client with the initials DB. Okay DB, you asked me a number of questions. One was around your health, one was around your current marriage, and I guess the prospects that are around that, including not just love and emotionality, but as you point out as well, the financial links associated with that marriage too. So we're going to explore all of that. We'll spend a little bit of time here, but spend most of our time here, but we'll start off over here and work our way around. Now, this is the Ogham stave, the Ogham few that themes the whole of your reading, and this is holly or thyme. And yeah, what do you say about holly? Holly is it's an Ogham that is very much about challenge, but it's about challenges that we place in our own path. So it's not about challenges necessarily that other people throw at us, it's about challenges that we make for ourselves. Now that's not to say that you are your own worst enemy. That's not what that's about at all. But it's about sometimes holding on to old stuff because we're afraid to let the new stuff in, better the devil you know kind of thing. But in so doing, we stop ourselves from moving further. That will probably become a little bit more apparent as we go through the reading as well. These three staves here are about the last, for you, normally it's about the last 12 months or so, but for you, we're talking now for the last 2 years or so. And the Ogham few that themes the last 12 months for you is this one here, which is Lewis or Rowan. And Rowan is very much about self-protection. It's about beginning to build a wall around yourself, and we use that terminology often around emotionality, but for you it's also around health as well as emotionality. For you, the last 12 months in particular has been a time where you really have begun to self-protect, and you've had every right and necessity to do so. These two here, beautiful, this one here, but it's a little bit suffocated at the moment. This is queer or apple, and apple is very much about a stave. It's one of my favourite staves, and it's about living a life that's full, that's whole, that's purposeful, and that's what you've wanted to do. For you, it's not just about fame and fortune. It's about living a life that makes your heart sing, that feeds your soul. But the problem has been, it's been suffocated for you by aspen or edia. It's been underneath this tree here, and so much as you've wanted to bubble up through the health issues and the emotional issues within your marriage, you've been held back, and a lot of that time you've been held back by fear. Aspen is very much about fear. It's about hesitation. It's about I can feel it weighing down on you so much that you haven't been able to express who you really are because circumstances have just taken over and robbed you of the ability to be who you would really like to have been and continue to be. Now these two staves here that sit in the middle, your reading is a little bit unusual in that normally there's just one stave in the middle here, but when I pulled Heather, which is this one, or out of the bag, this one flew out at the same time, and it's willow or sail. And I'm quite touched to see these two together. Heather is about, this is in the position, by the way, in terms of the spread about what's happening for you right now. Heather is about love, it's about companionship, it's about partnership, it's about shared goals, but that's not always with someone else. That's often about an exploration of ourselves so that we can really appreciate who we are and love who we are, and work in partnership with ourselves, with our soul, with our heart, to really manifest ourselves for the world as complete human beings. And willow that absolutely threw itself out of the bag at the same time, or sail, is about being flexible. It's about femininity, it's about magic. And when you put these two together right now, what I'm hearing is that the real you is completely suffocated under the necessities, the practicalities, if you like, of what's occurred. So, you know, this was the picture that we got here. So now I kind of sense you're at the point where I don't even know what my purpose in life is anymore. I don't even know who I am so that I can express who I need to be practically. It's as though your soul has taken a huge beating, and your identity, your picture of who you are, is not who you envisaged it should be. You feel that you look different, your health is different, the way you feel about the world is different, and there's this mismatch, if you like, between who you thought you were and who you think you need to be, and there's this blinking great big hole in the middle for you. So, you know, that's really quite sad. And why I say that in that negative rather than positive terms is that both of these are upside down when they came out of the bag. So what they're saying is that that's the big hole in your life, and I think you'll probably resonate with that. But let's kind of spend more time over in this area here, because that's where more of the answers to your questions are. Now this stave here is in the position of theming the whole of your reading moving forward, and this is Elder or Ruis. Now this is interesting because this is very much about a year ahead of regret, which doesn't sound very positive at all, in fact. So I'm gonna go back to that and talk about why that might be in a minute. But what I wanted to do first is just go through each of these, and then we'll kind of tie it all together, and then you'll see why each of them are there. This one that sits underneath is Gorse or On, and this is very much for the next 12 months about crumbs, living each day, just getting through each day. Again, it's starting to sound really dreary, isn't it? But it's not all dreary ahead, so just bear with me. But Gorse is it's also about sexuality. So, you know, it's the partner too, but in opposition to Heather, which is about love, honour, even about emotional spirituality, harmony, if you like, whereas Gorse is very much about sexuality. It's about immediate gratification, but it's also about just getting through each day without having a plan necessarily to work to, because each day is a bit of a struggle. But sitting over the top of that is You or Idaho, and I'm really pleased to see that this is sitting over the top of that one. You is very much a tree of change, but not about change that's imposed on you by other people or by circumstances, but a tree that talks about the changes that you make as a result of changes you, what am I trying to say here? Your approach to life is different. It's about internal changes, if you like, rather than changes that are imposed on you from outside. It's about how you begin to change the way you see the world, and that for you is really important in the next 12 months, and we're going to pick up on that a little bit more when we draw this all together. This final one down here is Elder or Fian, and this kind of is the undercurrent, if you like, for the next 12 months. It's about giving, receiving advice. It's about giving and receiving support. Now, you tend to be someone who tries very hard to be self-resourceful. You try very hard not to be a burden on other people, and so you don't have this massive big ring of supportive family and friends. There's just a few key people within your life, and there's an awful lot of people that don't actually know past the smile that you put on for the world. They don't know what's really happening in your world, because you've become quite good at putting the brave smile on, so that people aren't always aware of all of the difficulties that you've been facing, and that have impacted on your life. Now, let's talk, I guess, a little bit about the practical answers to your questions. You asked me about your health. You talked a little bit about what had occurred for you in the last 12 months in terms of health. And what I see in terms of health for you is that it's very important that you begin to, I think this won't be new news to you, and often readings are really about confirmation of what you've already thought about. It's about you taking responsibility for your health. Now, that's not to say that you haven't, and that you've just, opened yourself up to the advice and the circumstances of your health professionals at all, and allowed them to take over your life. That's not what I'm saying at all. But what I am saying is that in the next 12 months, it's really important that you do all your research, that you talk to as many people as you possibly can. Remember, we talked here about Older Ophian, which was about getting advice, getting support. It's really important that you do not trust the word of a single specialist or a single doctor, but that you talk to a number of different people. And that may very well be people in different areas of health. So not just an endocrinologist, for instance, not just a surgeon who specialises in one area, not just your GP. So perhaps not just allopathic medicine, but also I would encourage you to go and see a naturopath, to see a herbalist, to see perhaps a massage specialist, but to see perhaps a kinesiologist, to go and see different people who they themselves approach health from different viewpoints, because it's really important that you get a much broader view of who you are, rather than this single view of your health. They're giving me lots of messages, so please forgive me for the hesitation here. I'm just kind of trying to listen to what's coming in. What they're saying is that it's been a bit piecemeal, particularly in terms of your health. It's been very piecemeal, that this specialist has said this and this specialist has said this, but they've looked at it from a mechanical viewpoint, whereas you are beginning to see that you are more than just a mechanical set of limbs and of organs. You are much more holistic than that, and there is a need for you to look at your health from a much more holistic viewpoint. You already try and eat really well, I can sense that, and exercise is not always an easy option for you either. So I'm not talking about just that, but I'm talking about viewing your health from different standpoints. So I really encourage you to go and see a naturopath or a herbalist, perhaps a kinesiologist, perhaps a Reiki specialist who you trust, and so that your picture of treatment for the next 12 months is broader, and that they each support the very important allopathic health, the mainstream kind of health treatment plan that you have in place, but that it's much broader, much more holistic, and that it supports the whole of you, not just the mechanical, organic you. I'm hoping that makes a little bit of sense. I'm not sure if I've explained that as well as I could have done. Now, that is really important, they're telling me, not just from a medical viewpoint, but from an emotional viewpoint. Your self-confidence has taken a real hammering in the last 12 months, because you haven't been able to do what you would normally do, because the health impacts that have really kind of hammered you in the last 12 months have taken away a bit of independence. They've taken away whole slices of your identity and your being. So, there are big holes in who you view yourself now. So if you can take much more control of your health treatment plan in the next 12 months and have it much more holistically geared, if you will, not only does it help you organically and physically, but it helps you in terms of your self-confidence, because you begin to feel in the next 12 months much more in control again. And that's been quite important for you, because that control of your life has been taken away from you, that we can see here. So I really encourage you to do that in the next 12 months. You also talked to me about your marriage and where that currently is, and some of the steps that you've taken in the last year or two in order to find some form of emotional support. Your marriage, the status quo will continue in the next 12 months. I'm told that very clearly. So there will be no separation at all. And indeed, from a practical sense, that wouldn't work, as you clearly point out at the moment. However, I do see that inside the next 5 years there will be a separation. You will go your separate ways. And while you have been really quite concerned about the financial impact on that, I encourage you not to be concerned about the financial impact of that, because it's actually not as negative and as bad as you think it will be. It's actually going to be an awful lot easier when that separation occurs, for it to all, financially kind of fall out. It will be much easier than you think. However, within the next 5 years, it's really important that you find ways to support yourself emotionally. And finding ways to support yourself emotionally in the arms of someone else hasn't worked for you, and it won't work for you, because we know that what's missing here is your own identity, and you don't get that from other people, you get that from yourself. It's about learning to love who you are again, so that when love is ready to come back into your life, it will do so, not because you try and force it in, but because you actually don't need it. Now, what am I saying there? I know that sounded a bit cockeyed. Love with Heather here often says to us that when you don't need it, that's when you actually get it. In other words, if you can love yourself, learn to appreciate the wonder, the beauty, the amazingness, the resourcefulness, the creativity within you, then your love of self is enough. And when you have that, when you fully appreciate and celebrate and honour, respect and love who you are, that kind of blossoms and it shines, and that attracts love from other people towards you. And so I really encourage you to spend the next 2 years or so exploring who you are. Celebrate the absolute fantastic things about yourself. I mean, really celebrate them. Write them down. Put things on sticky notes pads and put them on your bathroom mirror. And if that doesn't work in terms of your marital circumstances, write little notes to yourself and put them in your handbag. Write little notes to yourself and put them in your shoes and leave them in your shoes overnight so that you find them the next morning. Little notes that say, remember how amazing I am today. Remember how blinking incredible I am today. So it's about learning to love who you are. So I'm hoping that makes a little bit of sense for you. That year ahead is very much a year for you about taking control again, about learning about your condition, about your conditions, in fact, about being resourceful in terms of using all of the different forms of medicine, traditional Chinese medicine, lots of different forms of medicine. To support you on a road back to health, because I do see within the next 12 months that you will be much healthier, you will be much more at peace, both physically and emotionally, but it's about you taking control again and being really broad-minded about how you approach your treatment plans. It's also about just treading water over the next 12 months in terms of your marriage. It's really important that the two of you actually sit down together and negotiate the terms of your friendship, because it's a friendship now and it's a relationship of convenience. There's nothing wrong with that whatsoever, as long as both of you are very clear about what the boundaries around that are, and what you expect from each other. And I think you'll find that if you have that conversation, it opens you both up to being much more open and honest and free within the confines of the practicality of that relationship, and you'll both find a great deal more peace if you can talk about that. Now, I wanted to talk to you about Swan. This is your Druid animal oracle card, and Swan is beautiful, very sensitive, very graceful, very loyal, but Swan is very much indicative of who you are. You know, we talked a little bit before when we were talking here about how you only have a close number of friends and there's very few people that really know about the turmoil going on. Swan is a little bit like that. Swan puts on that beautiful face, that gorgeous gracefulness, but underneath his little feet are paddling like mad to get him across the lake. So it's a little bit like you. Swan is dedicated to who they love, and at the moment you don't even love yourself very much. So if you can bring that back, then you can be back to that point of dedication to yourself. So you've neglected yourself, your emotional self. So that's really important. Swan is very fiercely protective of her family, and for you, the absence of a complete family has been a real dilemma for you. So if you can have that conversation with your partner about it's okay to be friends and in a marriage that supports each other financially and practically without necessarily having a bond of sexual or of intimacy, then that will free you much more to be dedicated to the family as it currently stands, and will allow you both to express that in new and much more healthier ways as well. So I really encourage you to learn an awful lot about Swan, because she really is a fantastic animal to have, I guess, as a totem animal for yourself as well. I also wanted to talk to you about your Celtic birth tree, and that actually is willow or sail. That is your Celtic birth tree, which is fascinating because this is a beautiful tree, and in terms of being a birth tree, willow folks tend to have really, really good memories, and that's fantastic because it helps them be practical, but it also means they tend to hold on to old stuff that they might otherwise need to let go in order to let new stuff come in. They're very resourceful, they're very strong, but they're also really flexible, and they're able to bend with change. And we know that from the last 12 months here, because you've had so many changes impact on you in the last couple of years, and you've had to be resourceful and flexible in order to go with the flow, if you like. Willow people tend to, they can be quite moody on occasions, but their moods can change quite drastically. But that's not necessarily about being moody, it's about their ability to be really flexible and to moderate their behaviour to different circumstances, and to be able to do that really quickly. That's actually a strength. Willow people have very strong intuition, a really strong sense of spirituality, although for you that's taken a bit of a hammering, but inherent within you is a really strong ability to be spiritual and to manifest that as well. So that's fantastic. Your Celtic birth deity is Caredwin. Fantastic Celtic deity, and I really encourage you to have a look at Caredwin. Caredwin is also about flexibility and change and moderation. A beautiful goddess to have a bit of a look at. And your birth animal, Celtic animal, is the hare, which is also about change and about flexibility. So I really encourage you to go and have a bit of a research and look at those, and perhaps use those as inspiration for you for the next 12 months. I hope that's been helpful for you. And in making decisions in the coming 12 months. and I look forward to doing a reading for you again in the future.